The United States Department of Education is a cabinet-level department of the United States government. It began operating on May 4, 1980, having been created after the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare was split into the Department of Education and the Department of Health and Human Services by the Department of Education Organization Act, which President Jimmy Carter signed into law on October 17, 1979. The Department of Education is administered by the United States Secretary of Education. It has under 4,000 employees and is also often abbreviated informally as DOED. The primary functions of the Department of Education are to establish policy for, administer and coordinate most federal assistance to education, collect data on U.S. schools, and to enforce federal educational laws regarding privacy and civil rights. The Department of Education does not establish schools or colleges. Unlike the systems of most other countries, education in the United States is highly decentralized, and the federal government and Department of Education are not heavily involved in determining curricular or educational standards. This has been left to state and local school districts. The quality of educational institutions and their degrees is maintained through an informal private process known as accreditation, over which the Department of Education has no direct public jurisdictional control. The Department of Education is a member of the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness and works with federal partners to ensure proper education for homeless and runaway youth in the United States. The U.S. Department of Education oversees the nation's education system. The department sets uniform rules and standards which are applied nationwide. Quote, since the Department of Education began operations in fiscal year 1980, its mission has included promoting student achievement and ensuring equal access to educational opportunity. To do so, education partners with state and local governments, which provide most of the resources to school districts for K-12 programs. For 2006, the ED discretionary budget was $56 billion and the mandatory budget contained $23 billion. In 2009 it received additional ARA funding of $102 billion. As of 2011, the discretionary budget is $70 billion. The department's origin goes back to 1867, when President Andrew Johnson signed legislation creating the first Department of Education. Its main purpose was to collect information and statistics about the nation's schools. However, due to concern that the department would exercise too much control over local schools, the new department was demoted to an Office of Education in 1868. Over the years, the office remained relatively small, operating under different titles and housed in various agencies, including the United States Department of the Interior and the former United States Department of Health, Education and Welfare. An unsuccessful attempt at creating a Department of Education, headed by a Secretary of Education, came with the Smith-Towner Bill in 1920. In 1939, the organization was transferred to the Federal Security Agency, where it was renamed as the Office of Education. After World War II, President Dwight D. Eisenhower promulgated Reorganization Plan No. 1 of 1953. The Federal Security Agency was abolished and most of its functions were transferred to the newly formed DHEW. In 1979, President Carter advocated for creating a cabinet-level Department of Education. Carter's plan was to transfer most of the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare's education-related functions to the Department of Education. Carter also planned to transfer the education-related functions of the Departments of Defense, Justice, Housing and Urban Development, and Agriculture, as well as a few other federal entities. Among the federal education-related programs that were not proposed to be transferred were Head Start, the Department of Agriculture's School Lunch and Nutrition Programs, the Department of the Interior's Native Americans Education Programs, and the Department of Labor's Education and Training Programs. Upgrading education to cabinet level status in 1979 was opposed by many in the Republican Party, who saw the department as unconstitutional. arguing that the Constitution doesn't mention education, and deemed it an unnecessary and illegal federal bureaucratic intrusion into local affairs. However, many see the department as constitutional under the Commerce Clause, and that the funding role of the department is constitutional under the Taxing and Spending Clause. The National Education Association supported the bill, while the American Federation of Teachers opposed it. As of 1979, the Office of Education had 3,000 employees and an annual budget of $12 billion. Congress appropriated to the Department of Education an annual budget of $14 billion and 17,000 employees when establishing the Department of Education. During the 1980 pre